I used to overcare, tracked every mood swing, every silence, every shift in his voice. He called it guilt, said I was the one hiding something, so I stopped trying. And that's when I understood why he never did. Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Let's all be internet friends. I noticed everything. Every sigh Eli let out when I asked a question. The way his voice shifted when he said, "I'm fine." Not warm, not annoyed, just flat, like he'd stopped bothering to pretend. I watched his jaw clench mid-sentence when I brought up plans for the weekend, counted the seconds between my text and his reply, tracked every unread message like it was a sign. I adjusted, constantly, changed how I asked things, rephrased sentences, added lol to soften anything that might sound too serious. I apologized for asking twice, then apologized again for apologizing. He'd brush it off, say I was reading into things, tell me I was too in my head, that I was exhausting myself for nothing. But I remembered how his tone changed when we first met, how he used to lean in, not lean back. So I overcompensated. I'd ask if he needed space, then text 3 more times to make sure I wasn't smothering him. I'd cry quietly and clean my face before he walked in the room. And when he asked what was wrong, I'd say, nothing. Because that's what he said. I replayed our conversations in the shower, on my commute, right before I slept, trying to figure out what I did wrong, what I said wrong, what part of me was too much this time. And when I couldn't find it, I blamed myself anyway. He said it was guilt, that the reason I noticed everything, the tone shifts, the silences, the mood swings, was because I must have been hiding something. You feel bad, that's why you overthink, he told me. You're projecting. I blinked at him. Projecting what? I don't know, whatever you're guilty about. I wasn't hiding anything. But the second he said it, I spiraled. Started asking myself if caring too much could be a form of manipulation. If noticing every shift in his voice meant I was controlling. If my need to understand him was actually toxic. I Googled things, sent myself links about attachment styles, highlighted paragraphs in books that talked about emotional labor and hypervigilance. He walked in one night while I was reading one of them and said, "You always make problems where there aren't any." So I closed the book and stopped bringing up how I felt. If he got quiet, I got quieter. If he looked distant, I looked away first. When I did speak up, I made sure my voice stayed even. My sentences short. No, I feel, just facts. I'm noticing some distance. He rolled his eyes. It's always something with you. I started to believe he was right. That maybe the problem was me. That maybe paying attention was a flaw. Even Maya stopped arguing with me. She used to push back hard. Every time I excused something Eli said. Every time I played interpreter for his silence. Every time I tried to turn his coldness into a misunderstanding. She'd say, "You're not confused. You're just hoping he'll become someone he never was." I'd defend him, tell her she didn't see the soft side, that he wasn't perfect, but neither was I, that he was just tired, that I was being too sensitive. One night after Eli left a dinner early without saying goodbye, Maya walked me to my car. She didn't yell. She just said, "You'll leave when it stops hurting to stay." I didn't respond because I knew she was right, but I still wasn't ready. I told her he was going through things, that he just didn't know how to communicate, that I understood him in ways others didn't. She nodded, quiet, then said, "You're not his therapist. And even if you were, he doesn't show up to the sessions." That time I did cry, quietly. She didn't say anything else, just handed me tissues and sat beside me in the parking lot. After that, she stopped trying to convince me. She knew what I hadn't yet admitted, that it wasn't about him changing. It was about me deciding I deserved to stop bleeding just to keep someone else warm. Camille always took his side, even when she saw it. The first time Eli snapped at me in front of her over something small, a forgotten charger, she barely looked up from her drink. I laughed it off, tried to make it light, said, "Wow, okay." He replied, "You always make things a thing." I looked at Camille. She smiled. That's just how he talks. Later that night, I told her it felt off, that I was trying, but he was so cold lately. She shrugged. "He's just direct. You read too much into it." I asked her if she thought I was being too sensitive. She said honestly, a little. At their family dinner, he made a joke about my emotional gymnastics. Everyone laughed. I forced a smile. Camille leaned over and whispered, "He doesn't mean it." But she never told him to stop. Never asked if I was okay. She once told me, "You keep Eli grounded. He's always been hard to connect with." I used to think that meant she appreciated me. Now I think it meant she liked how I made him easier for her. Camille never defended me, she just translated him. Softened his blows with charm, justified his absence with excuses, smiled when he ignored me in front of her. She didn't care if I was hurting. She cared if I made it uncomfortable to watch. I started to shrink, not all at once, not dramatically, just bit by bit. I lowered my voice, rounded off my sentences, replaced "I need" with "it's okay." Stopped wearing the lipstick he once said looked too loud. Switched out the floral dresses he joked were too much. I let him talk over me without correction. Let his phone calls go unanswered without follow-up. Learned to brace for disinterest like other people brace for storms. At work, Darren noticed. He didn't say anything right away, just started sitting near me during lunch. Quiet. Present, sometimes we ate in silence. Other times, he'd ask about my weekend and actually wait for the answer. "You're quieter than when you started here," he said once. I smiled. Just tired. He didn't push, just nodded. Offered me a granola bar from his desk the next day. I took it. At home, I stopped playing music aloud, stopped humming, stopped dancing in the kitchen. I didn't realize I was editing myself, until I saw my own reflection and barely recognized the girl looking back. She looked careful, muted, not peaceful, just erased. Eli said I seemed more relaxed lately. I said yeah. He kissed my forehead like I'd finally figured it out, and I let him think I had. The final straw was so small. I sent a message late, around 10 p.m. I had one of those long days where everything just felt like too much, and I typed out a paragraph that wasn't even dramatic, just honest. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel a little distance lately. If I'm overthinking, tell me. But I need to feel like I'm not reaching alone. I sat with my phone on the bed, watched the screen stay blank, checked the timestamp, checked it again. 3 hours later, the reply came. "Lol, chill." That was it, no follow-up. No, "I'll call you tomorrow." No, "Hey, I hear you." Just that, 3 letters and a shrug. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. Not from tears, from staring at a wound I'd already memorized. Something inside me didn't snap. It dulled, like a radio being turned all the way down. I turned off my phone, turned off the light, laid down in silence and let the numbness settle like a blanket. And in that quiet, I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel anything at all. I went numb on purpose. Stopped asking how his day was. Stopped checking if he got home safe. Stopped filling the silence with effort. No reminders, no overthinking, no paragraphs. I mirrored him. If he didn't text, I didn't either. If he gave one-word replies, I let the conversation end. If he walked past me without a kiss, I didn't turn around to follow. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did and preferred it this way. I started waking up without the ache of wondering what mood he'd be in. Ate breakfast without checking his schedule. Let my phone stay face down for hours. The weight I used to carry, his moods, his silences, his unspoken resentments, it started to slide off piece by piece. I realized how much of my own time had been spent scripting conversations in my head, rehearsing tone, filtering emotion, strategizing around someone who called love easy but never made it so. Now I just let things happen. Or not, he said less. So did I, and the quiet that used to make me anxious started feeling like space, like room to breathe. He didn't notice I changed. Not when I stopped texting goodnight. Not when I skipped our usual Friday takeout. Not when I went 3 days without asking how work was going. He just kept going the same pace, same distance. We shared a couch but not conversations. He scrolled through his phone while I sat beside him, laptop open, pretending to be busy. He never looked over, never asked what I was working on. He'd get up without saying where he was going, come home without saying he was back. And I stopped asking. He didn't notice I stopped saying be safe when he left. Didn't blink when I stopped reminding him of his mom's birthday. Didn't ask why I didn't pack him lunch that one day, or the next, or the one after that. There were no arguments, just absence. He mistook the stillness for balance, called it maturity, peace, But it wasn't peace, it was withdrawal, and he didn't even see it. Because when someone's only interested in being cared for, not about you caring, they don't notice when it's gone. They only notice when you stop reacting. And I had. Completely. Darren started eating lunch with me again. He didn't make a big deal out of it. Just showed up with his tray, sat down, unwrapped his sandwich, and said, "That new intern definitely lied on his resume." I laughed, the first real one in days. We didn't talk about Eli. Not at first. Darren didn't ask questions that pressed. He just asked if I'd seen the memo about the schedule change, if I wanted the last cookie on the shared plate, if I'd heard the album he'd been playing on repeat. Then one day, as I was clearing our table, he asked, "You doing okay?" I froze. He added, "You don't have to answer." But I did. I think I stopped caring, and I don't know if that's healing or just hollow. He nodded. Maybe it's both. He didn't tell me what to do, didn't say Eli's name. Just handed me a napkin when I wiped my eyes a little too fast and said, "You're showing up different lately." That's not nothing. We sat a little longer that day. When we left, he held the door open, let it close behind us without a single look over his shoulder. It was the first time in a while I felt seen, without having to explain why I needed to be. Camille slipped. It was during a casual visit. Eli had invited me over for dinner with his family, one of those forced, weekly check-ins where everyone played nice and nothing was ever said too loud. Camille poured wine, handed me a glass, sat beside me on the couch like we were still close. "You've been so quiet lately," she said. I smiled politely. "Just tired." She tilted her head. "Honestly, I think he likes you better like this." I paused. "Like what?" She shrugged. "You know, quieter, more steady." I didn't reply. She kept sipping her wine like she hadn't just confirmed everything I'd been afraid to say out loud. More steady, more quiet, more manageable. I excused myself to the kitchen, hands cold around the rim of the sink. Breathed through the sudden rush behind my eyes. He didn't love me more now. He just loved me less loud. I thought about all the times he told me I was too much, too emotional, too reactive, that he missed how things were before, that I'd changed. He didn't mean I'd changed for the worse. He meant I'd stopped pushing back, stopped asking for more. Camille smiled when I came back, like she hadn't cracked anything open. I smiled back, but something inside me finally clicked shut. The night he left for a weekend trip, I slept better than I had in months. No waiting for him to text goodnight. No tension in the silence. No wondering if I said too much, asked too often, tried too hard. Just quiet, just me. I made pasta. Ate on the couch with no music, no TV, just the sound of my own chewing and the hum of the fridge. When I turned off the lights and crawled into bed, I didn't check my phone. Didn't scroll. Didn't lie there rehearsing conversations or decoding cold responses. I just lay there, breathing. The sheets didn't feel heavy. The dark didn't feel sharp. I didn't tense when a door creaked or the floor popped. I didn't anticipate his footsteps, didn't wait for him to ask what was wrong, only to dismiss the answer. I fell asleep fast, deep. I woke up rested. Calm. I stood in the mirror the next morning, toothbrush in hand, and realized something. I didn't miss him, I missed being seen, and that's not the same thing. Maya called it grief. I told her I wasn't sad, that I wasn't angry, that I wasn't anything, really. She said, "You're mourning the care you gave." I sat on my kitchen floor, phone to my ear, eyes on the baseboard where the paint was chipped. I hadn't noticed that before. "I feel stupid," I said. "You weren't stupid," she replied. "You were loving someone who didn't make room for it." I tried everything. I know. I started crying, not the sharp, gutted kind. Just slow, steady, like my body was catching up to what my mind had already accepted. "I spent so much time trying to keep us okay," I whispered. "And he spent none," she said. I wiped my face with the back of my sleeve. "Why did I let it go on so long?" "Because you thought care could fix distance," Maya said. "But you were the only one closing the gap." I didn't speak for a while. She stayed on the line. "I don't miss him," I said. "You miss how hard you tried." I nodded even though she couldn't see me, because she was right. I wasn't grieving him. I was grieving the version of me who thought trying that hard was love. He got worse when I got quieter. Started pacing when I didn't ask where he was going. Slammed cabinets louder. Walked into rooms like he was waiting to be confronted. But I didn't rise to it. Didn't flinch when he said, "You've changed." Didn't explain myself when he said, "You used to care more." Didn't chase him with follow-up texts when he went dark for hours, then reappeared with, "Been busy." I just let the silence stand. He hated it, started picking fights over nothing. Said I was cold, said I was different, said I wasn't fun anymore, that I checked out. He was right, I had. I sat across from him on the couch as he listed things I'd stopped doing. "You don't look at me the same. You don't ask me anything. You barely talk." I nodded. He waited for a reaction. I gave him none. Because I'd finally learned something he never had. Silence isn't always a punishment. Sometimes it's a boundary. He mistook my detachment for cruelty. But really, it was clarity, and he'd never been more uncomfortable than when he saw himself reflected in my stillness. He asked if I still loved him. We were sitting on opposite ends of the couch. He was scrolling his phone like always, then suddenly set it down and looked over at me. "Do you still love me?" I didn't answer right away. He repeated it. "Nina, do you?" I looked at him, really looked, and asked, "Why would you ask now?" He blinked. "Because you're different. And you're just noticing." His jaw tightened. "You've been distant." "I've been quiet." "Same thing." "No," I said. "It's not." He waited for me to say more, for a confession, a breakdown, a tear. I gave him none. I said, "You never asked me that when I was begging for your attention. Never asked when I was crying beside you. Never asked when I shrank to keep things peaceful. So this is punishment. This is perspective." He stood. "I'm trying now." I didn't answer. Because love isn't something you remember to offer when someone finally stops bleeding for it. And in that moment, for the first time, I didn't want him to love me back. I wanted to love myself more. I didn't leave loudly. No suitcase by the door. No final screaming match. No dramatic unfollowing spree. I just stopped showing up, stopped texting good morning, stopped asking if he ate, stopped suggesting plans and filling the empty space with effort. He didn't notice the first week, just thought I was in a mood. He joked that I was being mysterious, called it sexy. The second week he asked if I was mad. I said no. He let it go. The third week he texted, "You've been quiet." I didn't reply. I didn't ghost him. I just stopped feeding the illusion that what we had was connection. My messages got shorter. My voice got softer, not tender, just distant, like the echo of someone who used to live there. I left behind no apology, no recap, no curated goodbye, because he never earned an ending with closure. He earned absence, earned what it feels like to reach for someone who's no longer holding the rope. I didn't post about it, didn't cry over it, didn't explain it. I just walked out of the version of myself that thought love had to hurt, and into the one that finally knew it didn't. He tried love bombing me. Out of nowhere, flowers on my doorstep. A long message about realizing things. A playlist he said reminded him of us. There had never been an us in those songs before. Then came the promises. "We can start over. I've been thinking a lot. I didn't know what I had. I'm ready to go to therapy." He showed up with takeout from my favorite place, wore the shirt I once said I liked, spoke softer, paused longer, looked me in the eyes like he was performing sincerity. It was a perfect script, but it wasn't love, it was maintenance. He missed being prioritized, missed being forgiven before he asked, missed the version of me that absorbed blame and called it compromise. I didn't take the flowers inside. I didn't text back. I didn't tell him to stop because he wouldn't have listened anyway. I just stayed silent. He called once. Left a voicemail I didn't listen to, then nothing. It ended the way he began, pretending to care long enough to stay comfortable. But I wasn't the same girl anymore. The one who used to see breadcrumbs and call it a meal. I told Camille I was done. It wasn't a confrontation. Just a passing conversation when she bumped into me at the pharmacy, all smiles and small talk like nothing had happened. She asked how I'd been, said Eli was going through it. That he missed me, I nodded. Then I said, "I'm done." She blinked with the silence. "No, with him." She lowered her sunglasses. "I didn't think you'd actually leave." I shrugged. I already had. He just didn't notice. She paused, then said, "You were never what he wanted, just what he could control." I didn't react, because I wasn't surprised. She said it like it was obvious, like it had been the unspoken truth all along. And maybe it was, I just hadn't been ready to hear it, or maybe I'd known. But I'd spent so long proving I was enough that I never stopped to ask why he never had to prove the same. Camille touched my arm, almost gently. You deserved more. I know, I said, and I did. Finally. Luca unfollowed him. I didn't ask anyone to take sides, didn't send a mass update, didn't tell people what he did because he didn't do anything loud. That was the problem. But people noticed. Luca messaged me first, just a simple, "You good?" I said, "Getting there." He replied, "I stopped hanging out with him. Hope that's okay to say." I said, "Why?" He answered, "I can't respect a man who breaks a woman's voice and calls it peace." That message sat on my screen longer than I expected. I didn't cry, but something in me loosened. Others stayed silent. Some stayed neutral. A few still tagged him in things, still posted throwbacks, still smiled in photos beside him like they couldn't see the difference. But the ones who mattered, they noticed. And they didn't just leave quietly. They left intentionally. Maya unfollowed him a week later. Darren never said anything, but I saw him roll his eyes when someone brought Eli up during lunch. I didn't need a crowd. I just needed a few people who didn't ask for evidence to believe what I lived. And the ones who stayed, they saw me. Not the version Eli tolerated, but the one I fought to reclaim. I bumped into Darren at a bookstore. I was in the fiction aisle, holding a novel I'd picked up 3 times before but never bought. He walked past, then backtracked. "Hey," he said, smiling, "you look lighter." I blinked. What? Just lighter, not smaller, lighter. It took me a second, then I laughed. The kind that reaches your chest before it hits your mouth. He didn't say more, just stood there with a copy of a book I'd recommended to him months ago. I said, "I'm getting there." He nodded. "I can tell." We didn't talk about Eli. Didn't need to. He asked what I was reading. I showed him the cover. He held it in his hands, flipped it over, then passed it back. "You'll like it," he said. I believed him. We didn't exchange numbers, didn't make plans, just walked the next few aisles together. At checkout, he let me go first. Didn't hover, just smiled once, then walked out. It wasn't flirtation. It was kindness, clean, simple, unattached to expectation. And when I got home, I opened the book and smiled again. I don't care like I used to. Not in the hollow way, not numb, just free. I don't replay texts. Don't reread messages looking for what I missed. Don't sit in silence wondering if it's me, if I'm too much, if I'm not enough. I used to track tone changes like weather, measured every pause in conversation like it was a warning sign. Thought love meant constant vigilance. That paying attention was protection, but I wasn't protecting love. I was managing distance. And calling it intimacy, now I ask once. If the answer's vague, I let it be. If someone pulls away, I don't chase. I don't fill silence just to prove I'm listening. I let people show me who they are without spinning it into something softer. And I sleep, really sleep. I smile and mean it. I don't carry people who won't even meet me halfway. Maya said I've stopped shrinking. She's right. I don't shrink for the sake of peace anymore. I don't stretch myself for crumbs and call it connection. And that girl who once confused overcare with love, she's still here, just quieter now. Not erased, just reserved. For the people who see her, without needing to be told where to look. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I love you all.